huge welcome back to myths, misconceptions and misunderstandings of EDS and HSD. This little category is about diagnosis and queries and questions surrounding the diagnosis of these conditions. So a negative Beighton score means you don't have hypermobility or EDS. So this is a misunderstanding, and it's still in practice now. You know, people come to see me, they've been given a low score on the Beighton scale, and they've been told that therefore they're not hypermobile. The Beighton score is really one tool that should be used when diagnosing someone with hypermobility or EDS. You know, the Beighton score only looks at a few joints in the body. Okay, it doesn't even look at our shoulder joint, which is the most mobile joint in the body. So we can't base a diagnosis just on a Beighton score, okay? When I see people, they're clearly hypermobile, even though they've been given a low score, because that score is not taking into account all of the joints in the body, okay? So I know that can be really frustrating, but it really is a misunderstanding, I think, out there in the world that the Beighton score is the be-all and end-all, but it's really a starting point for a full analysis and investigation into that person's history, rather than you know, a black and white yes or no diagnosis. So that's the Beighton score. Talking of diagnosis, you don't need a diagnosis because there's no treatment anyway. Wow, you don't need a diagnosis because there's no treatment. Well, that's factually incorrect, because there are plenty of treatments, okay? They might say there's no cure, but does that still mean you don't need a diagnosis? I mean, a diagnosis is very, very validating. It can be very helpful. It can help people get the right treatment. It can relieve a lot of anxiety and stress. Gosh, it took me 35 years to get my diagnosis, and I burst into tears when I got it, because the relief of, you know, you start thinking that, you know, you have heart trouble, lung trouble, gut trouble, bladder trouble. You think, what is wrong with me? There are all these different things wrong with me. And then you get the diagnosis and the relief, and like everything makes sense. I'm sure there are people listening to this that have been through that as well. So telling someone they don't need a diagnosis because there's no treatment anyway. Remember, these are things that people have been told. These are not me making these up. These are things from our community. That is really just, what is that? A misunderstanding. There is treatment. There are lots of options. Physical therapy being one of them, movement therapy, pain management clinics, medications. Gosh, you know, the list is endless. Diet, nutrition. Oh, there's so much. So to tell someone that there's no point is really heartbreaking. And talking of diagnosis, another one that a client of mine was told is, we don't want to give you a diagnosis because we don't want to put you in a box. I mean, what does that mean? You know, this was a young person, doesn't want to be put in a box. Well, if being put in a box means that I get treatment and help, then I'm happy to go in the box. Put me in the box. You know, if there's something wrong, if people have multi-systemic issues, they have widespread pain, they have POTS-like symptoms, they need to know about it. They need to know for their psychological health as well as their physical health. So it's not about putting people in boxes. It's about helping people get the right support and alleviate some of this worry about thinking what on earth is wrong with them. So again, total misconception there. Your scans are fine, so you don't have anything wrong with you. Yeah, and we've covered this in a previous video. So many of us have been down that route of blood tests, scans, all coming back fine, and then just being dismissed because we're told, well, there's nothing wrong with you. And that's just not the case. Yeah, the scan, again, shouldn't be a black and white answer. That's not the be all and end all. If someone's telling you they don't feel well, they've got this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue, we can't just send them away because their scan didn't tick boxes of a preconceived idea of what we thought might be wrong with them. If the scan is clear, you have to dig deeper. That's not the end of the story. Go back, start digging deeper. I'm sorry, I see so many people this has happened to. Please don't give up on patients just because the scan is clear. That means there's something else going on. And, you know, if you can't connect the issues, think connective tissues. Who knows? They could have EDS or HSD, which is causing them widespread body pain and other systematic issues. Let me see. Yes. Again, this was something that was told to a member of our community, that the only neuro issues associated with EDS are strokes. Okay, so told, I presume, by a doctor or a consultant, that the only neuro issues that EDS caused were strokes. So I looked into this and I found a paper from 2014 by the very well-regarded Marco Castori in the EDS world. And the paper was actually called Neurological Manifestations of EDS. And if it's written by Marco Castori, then it's going to be a good paper, okay? So there's a paper out there. So first of all, we can dismiss this, that's the only neuro issue. Strokes, according to this paper, are more associated with vascular EDS, okay? So maybe that's where the misunderstanding came from, that somebody read somewhere that you have strokes, but it's limited, according to this paper, it's more, prevalent in the vascular EDS category, okay? But other issues, neurological issues cited in this paper: epilepsy, neuromuscular features, neuropathy, developmental delays, migraines, cervical instability, motor delays, autonomic dysfunctions, muscle weaknesses, pain, fatigue, brain and structural abnormalities, spinal issues as well. That's obviously something slightly different. But he concludes that these are largely unrecognized set of central and peripheral nervous system features in patients with HEDS. So largely unrecognized. So yes, it is a myth that you only have strokes as neuro symptoms. I'm sure many of you out there have experienced or are experiencing other neurological issues with your condition. So if you're interested in learning more or would like to share that information with your doctor or your primary care physician, that, as I say, was a paper by Marco Castori from 2014 called Neurological Manifestations. So it is a real thing and it is not limited to strokes. So that draws us to the end of today's session surrounding myths and misconceptions about diagnosis of EDS and HSD. Please let me know in the comments below, what have you experienced? What have I missed? What do we need to myth bust and add to this collection? And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening. I'll see you again soon.